and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, when I said last week, this week's going to score a lot of points, it won't be the 86 we scored last week, but it'll be a lot of points. I won't lie, I don't think I expected 90. They scored 90 points in this game.
Yeah, this game, it lived up to everything people talked about this game potentially being. And then obviously the defensive injuries on both sides of the ball assisted that over really smacking. I congratulations to everyone that took the over on that. What was it, like a 60 point over under, almost like 50 something?
Yeah, 54 and a half, most places, 54 and a half.
Whew. Congrats to smacking that over and eating it.
Yeah, anybody who grabbed that, congratulations.
Man.
So you are joining us tonight because the Buffalo Bills have defeated the number one NFC seed Detroit Lions 48-42. The Lions, the Bills were up by 2 to 3 scores the entire second half. The Lions scored with a handful of seconds left in the game to try an onside kick to be able to bring it within the 6 points, but the Bills maintained a 10 to 17 point lead throughout the second half. They cut it down there. The closest that it got was the 6 seconds left after the score and the onside kick. So it was never as close as what the final score kind of made it seem like. But, in fairness, I know a lot of folks in the Discord channel were very anxious about this just because we have, I think, kind of Bills PTSD of previous games. So it always felt, and it doesn't help that Romo and Nance were, again, it's in their best interest to maintain interest and to drive up drama. So I don't know if it's over, Jim. They might have a chance, Jim. Like, Romo's really obnoxious with it, but it's his job. Like, it's his job to drive drama. But the Bills PTSD and the fear of all the other horrendous losses we've had in the past, plus Romo constantly pecking at it, I think a lot of people had more anxiety than what was an awesome performance from the Bills. The Bills were awesome today. The offense was fantastic. We'll talk about them in a moment. 48 points. The defense, going in short 3 starters, and then during most of the game, short 5 starters, made plays when they had to. Of course, the score looks enormous because it was, but they made the stops when they needed to.
Yeah. I mean, I was nervous mafia at the end of that game. I had anxiety of potential onside recovery, especially when that pile was going and Detroit's pointing one way and Bills are pointing the other way. I didn't feel great inside. Luckily, my watch battery died early tonight, so I don't know how high my heart rate got up at the end there. But
that's better unknown.
Realistically, the Bills were at like a 98 to 99% chance to win. A good 5-6 minutes left in the game, and it didn't, like, even the way Detroit kind of finished off that game, I don't think the odds were not in their favor to come away with a win in that one. They got that backdoor score, made it look a little bit closer than it was, but the Bills had this at an arm's length really from the second half on, and we'll get into the drive-by-drive breakdown, but I don't know. The thing that's going to be hard for me tonight, Greg, is which drive of the game out of all of the touchdown drives is going to be my drive. This might be a record setting, like Josh Allen sets records every single week for the first player to ever do everything. This might be a first ever West Herr 4 to 5 drive.
We could have 6 West Herr drives of the game. I might pick the Mac Howens onside kick return and 1 play drive just on principle.
Yeah.
It was awesome. So let's start. Obviously, it starts at the top. Josh Allen, if there was any question, I know you mentioned pre-show, there was some folks in the pregame show talking about, I don't know, Lamar Jackson 5 touchdowns again. It was, a blowout against the lowly Giants, but it was 5 touchdowns. Is Josh Allen going to give him a chance to sneak into this MVP race? Is Saquon Barkley going to put up an awesome performance against the Steelers? Could Jared Goff, with everybody watching, steal this MVP that, are people crowning Josh Allen too early? Josh Allen comes out, goes 23 of 34 for 362 yards and 2 passing touchdowns, 68 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, no turnovers, multiple critical first downs on that last drive, picking up huge plays over and over, multiple crazy highlight plays. We didn't even get the one, like the 2-hand chest pass. Wow. We got called back on a BS penalty that was not holding on David Edwards.
Yeah.
Just Josh Allen being quintessential Josh Allen. There's been so many crazy plays the last 3 or 4 weeks that it's hard to differentiate. But this was him at the ultimate level again, in full control. Like he was just absolutely in control at all times of this game.
Yeah, I never saw him. There was never a sugar high Josh moment in this game. Really, even the misses were inches away. Like some of them were barely misses in this game.
Even some of the Dawson Knox saved a miss on an awesome catch. A couple times the guys came up big for him when they weren't. Ty Johnson had a really huge catch, diving down to get it low on that back across the body, 3rd and 9. So the receivers picked him up too, even when he wasn't perfect, and he was perfect an awful lot.
Yeah, they're in sync. And actually, I want to talk about the super chat here from Cespinar. AQ's preseason scoring 30 isn't feasible. Yeah, I'm taking that L. I've been taking it for weeks. I'm sure they're over averaging 30 now.
Tied the NFL record for their 8th straight 30-point game.
They were right at, I think, like 30.1 average for the year right now. Detroit also at like 30.8, I think, for the year. The two of those teams are the only ones over 30 for the season, about to be back-to-back over 40. Yeah, great call here. And I said it during the game.
Yeah, they'll be above 31 now with this.
Yeah, this is the best Josh and this Bills offense has looked. It's reminiscent to me of that 2021 run of Dable in the playoffs where it was the no punt game against the Patriots and then obviously 13 seconds and that offensive performance that he had there. That 2-week stretch was the best offense I'd ever seen in my life. And I think that we just saw 4 quarters or 8 quarters now in a row of offense that is on par, if not better than those 2 back-to-back performances. My hope is that this isn't like, we talk about this all the time, Greg, of playing your best ball heading into the playoffs. Like, I don't think the defense is peaked. I think they need to get healthy and get a little bit better here, but I'm just hoping that this isn't the peak, right? Because can it get even better than this, or can they maintain this type of level of efficiency in offense? Because if they can, I love it. But this looks like back in the day, me playing Madden with like the scales moves so that I could drop 40 something a game. Like, this is silly. It's silly right now.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's not us being homers or us being just pumping up our guy. It's literally unprecedented. Yeah. We've never seen anyone do what he's doing. Last week, he was, first time since Otto Graham. It's, guys on a couple of the podcasts I listened to were joking about the Tungsten Arm O'Doyle Award, where it's always like, first guy since Bob, and it's these insane combinations of things. It's just nobody's ever done what he's doing right now, and it's really, really impressive. I know. Shout out to our guy Kevin Massar, former Cover One host, just put out there about the Bills now have beat last year's Super Bowl team, last year's Super Bowl champ, last year's Super Bowl runner up, last year's NFC championship team, this year's number 1 seed in both conferences, this year's number 1 seed in the AFC, this year's number 1 seed in the NFC. Any questions about whether the Bills can beat good teams or who they can beat? They can beat absolutely anyone. And that, they did lose by 2 with the Rams fastball last week. They're absolute A+ game. But they've shown that they can hang with absolutely anybody here. And it's because, I keep saying it, and I'm so glad I leaned into this in preseason and so many other shows. We have Josh Allen and you don't. And right now that's enough.
Yeah. And it was more than that. There was a lot of contributions that'll get lost in just how great Josh has been over these last couple of games. And obviously you don't win these games without him playing the way that he does. And that is the separator. And a lot of people said that when I was worried about the Lions. It was like, hey, they have Goff. We have Josh Allen. Like, that's going to be the separator in this game. And a lot went into it too. We talk about the injuries to the Bills defense and Lions being able to score. Lions also were banged up. This isn't the best that the Lions have been all year long. Their offense looked great at times throughout this game. Bills still got some stops. But this was a banged up Lions defense. And you pointed it out in the preview show. Like, this kind of is what should have been expected. Maybe not as many points and as clean of a game, but to be able to, if we were going to get in a shootout, the Bills had the advantage against the Lions with a real, and then even in the game, continuing to just guys going down. I think the Bills lost a handful of guys. They lost 3 or 4 guys in this game. And so really, the Bills should look like this, but that's so weird to say that like they should look like
Yeah, the
this
Bills
total
totally should have
wagon.
had 500 yards of offense and
Yeah.
48 points, and this is what we should expect. Both teams should have had. There were 58 first downs in this game. 58, 30-28. There was 1,080 yards.
Yeah. I was told offense is down.
559 to 521. There was 1,080 yards in this play or in this game. This is so absurd.
Somebody told me
did.
offense was down in 2024. I
They
haven't
did
seen
allegedly.
it.
Yeah, the defenses were answering back and had the too high shell. It was the too high shell holding teams down. Although I will say, I was really worried about the Sonic and Knuckles of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And this is, if you ever believe in the importance and value of game script, going up early on the Lions in this game was absolutely enormous. It's what tilted this. The Lions needed to get the lead. They needed to lean on us with our offensive line of those two running backs. They needed to be able to let their defensive linemen pass rush on us, and we did all of those things. We leaned on them. We were able to run the ball. We were able to lean on them with our offensive line and jumbo sets. We were able to let our defensive line pass rush and pin their ears back. And you could see right here in the chat, no one benefited that more than Ed Oliver. When they're able to run at us, he is undersized. He's not the biggest defensive tackle. When he knows that we can pin our ears back and go after them, he can be a disruptive force. And this was, I think, easily his best game of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what though? I'll push back just a little bit because I've seen the Lions go down a couple scores and still running the ball on team. Like they're one of the few teams that I do.
We talked about that with Nick, that their runs on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 8, things like that.
Yeah, and while they're down in a game, like they are still going to lean into that. And I think game script did play into some of it, so I'm not going to push back too hard. But I do think the Bills did a good job stopping. They didn't do a lot of good things on defense today. A couple stops early, and then they got the turnover. But I do think even when Detroit tried to run early in that game, they stuffed it out. I think they played in passion. I don't know what McDermott and Babbage said to that defensive line early in that game, but it worked, and they had it stuffed out to where they were better off leaning into the pass. And with injuries at the safety position and in the defensive backfield, that also made sense. I think it encouraged them to want to go after the pass a little bit more, maybe taking a little bit off of the running backs. But I got to get my hat off to, what was it, 48 yards for the day from the Lions running back, something like that?
Yes. Total of technically 15 for 48. Yeah, 15 carries for 48 yards.
Well, and actually 13 of those were Goff. So
Jared got, and that was like a really impactful rush where we almost got home. Javon Solomon kind of slipped off of him and couldn't take down the sack and ended up scrambling for a 10-yard first down. That was on 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 8 or something like that.
It was a 3rd and long, yeah.
Yeah. So again, on the other side of the running the ball, the Bills were incredibly impactful. 34 carries for 197 yards, 5.8 yards per carry. I think even one of those was a kneel down, so it's technically even a little bit better. Might even be closer to 6 yards a carry. 14 for 105 and 2 touchdowns for James Cook. We already talked about Josh Allen's 11 for 68 and 2 touchdowns. Ray Davis with some tough yards, only 7 for 15, but a lot of that was in the clock milking drive when they knew we were running the ball. Ty Johnson, 2 for 9. We'll get to him in a minute. I'll save him for leading pass catchers. But running the ball 34 times for 197 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns on the team that I think everyone, even more than the Ravens around the NFL, is looked at as the new modern bully, the team that with their offensive line and their tag team of running backs can just punch you in the mouth, but still has the efficiency and the uber, mind offensive coordinator, and they can, punch you, and then slice you up and come with trick plays and do all the neat things. We did all those things today. We were the team dominating the line of scrimmage and pushing them back, running the ball with multiple running backs, being able to hit play action and hit those plays, and having the incredibly creative offensive mind. I love that Nance and Romo were giving Joe Brady his flowers in this game because he was coming up with some really creative stuff. That little shovel pass to Shakir, the isolation to get Ty Johnson out in space. The 4x1 sets. I joked this summer with, I think it was Bruce Nolan, about how Varsity Blues was a kind of panned as a joke at the time. It was a entertaining movie for getting teenagers like me at the time. But they mocked him in the movie about the oop de oop, and it was a 4 receiver set on one side, and it's now one of the most impactful offensive formations in the league. Dan Orlovsky's been talking about it, and it was all going back to Mox in the Varsity Blues and the oop de oop, and John Voight losing his mind in that, Coach Kilmer losing his mind in that movie, and now 25 years later or however long later, now it's revolutionizing the NFL, and seeing Joe Brady and this offense lean into it has been so fun.
Yeah, I love this comment here by Mazvids. Lions join the Bills as the only 2 teams in history to lose games after scoring 6 touchdowns. Fire Dan Campbell.
Also add in terrible special teams decision and defense letting up 45 points or 48 points. Fire Dan Campbell. I think that's how that works.
Yeah, he made a couple questionable decisions and allowed time to go and things.
Yeah, timeout usage was not according to the analytical model. There's no model for like whether to onside kick at the 12-minute mark or not, but that was hyper aggressive. I get the idea of like, oh man, I don't think we're going to stop them. We might as well try to get the ball back here. Yeah. And even if we give it to them, now they're only 45 yards away from a score. We were probably going to give up a long scoring drive anyways, until you see them take the onside kick back to the 6 and like, oh, we just completely negated your touchdown with 0 effort. Oh, that was probably too aggressive.
Yeah. And honestly, I think the Bills probably scored too quick there. It almost even favored the Lions there because
one play, 9 seconds.
Yeah, that probably hurt a little bit, but it was still fun to get more scores there. But yeah, no, great comment there. Before we get into the wide receiver room, as we get into this wide receiver room, who did Amari Cooper piss off this week?
So I do think that very clearly they were hyper focused on the running backs and tight ends and the advantage they have on those linebackers and on the middle of the field, because one broken play to Keon Coleman, the normal targets to Khalil Shakir, but honestly less of a focus than he's normally like, I don't want to say centerpiece because nobody's a centerpiece in this passing offense, but he's normally like a very noticeable cog in this offense. And it almost seemed like Dawson Knox and Kincaid and weirdly Ty Johnson were as important as Shakir. We hadn't seen that. So Cooper and Hollins and Samuel and Coleman all are 4 outside receivers combined for 7 targets in the game. So it wasn't a Cooper thing.
Even like I remember seeing Hollins out there quite a bit. I remember seeing Samuel out there quite a bit. I'm interested to see the snap counts because I didn't really even see Cooper that much. I'm sure he was out there, but I'm interested.
He was for sure. Yeah, the snap counts will be interesting. It for sure was on the lower end. I don't know.
It's just interesting with everybody healthy. How is that going to be going forward?
Yeah. How does that work out? So obviously, with those guys not getting the normal workload, we saw 4 for 53 from Dalton Kincaid, some really clutch ones, including a touchdown that I saw. They can't take it away. I saw it. It was awesome. It was a cool like basketball chest pass. They can't take that away from me. Dawson Knox, 2 for 42, but some really clutch ones, both some big time plays that needed to be made, including one awesome tight end leak is maybe my favorite play. Like it really might be my favorite play. It's the block, and then leak out. It's always fun. Yeah, I really need a big man touchdown in my life. I saw too many from other games. They got one. There was a really good Tavondre Sweat got a fumble return with a stiff arm. There were so many big man touchdowns around the NFL. I need one. I deserve one. Dawson Knox there. James Cook 1 for 28. Ray Davis 2 for 14. Everybody there, but like the intention around the fact, like Ty Johnson was the leading receiver, as Mr. Fisher here is reinforcing.
Awesome.
But this wasn't a fluky accident. He had 5 targets, 5 catches, 114 yards, and 3 explosives or 4? 3 explosives?
He had 3. Yeah, 33, 24, and 31.
And the intentionality of Joe Brady and Josh Allen identifying that, hey, they are limited and hobbling at linebacker. They run a ton of man, and we can identify this. Let's not shoehorn something that we're not 100% sure of who's our best receiving back and our best pass protector that we can lean into this and they won't get the initial, obvious trigger. And to then take Ty Johnson and place him into this incredibly important, prominent role is awesome to see that kind of, again, I don't know a better word, intentionality, like just the fact that that was a purposeful strategy to deploy is really, really cool. And then to see it be executed not only effectively, but perfectly, 5 for 5, and 3 of them being game impacting huge plays. Yeah, William Swan is 100% on target here. He was, as my nephews tell me, he was in his bag. I don't know what it means, but my nephews tell me it's good.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. Yeah, there's one I'm looking for now. There was one, I want to say it was like a third or maybe it was fourth down, and they got man coverage.
The one was fourth down for sure.
Yeah, and what a play, right? Because you think like fourth
With
down,
a
you're really
legal
just,
pick, it's not. It's legal
for sure.
when it's within 1 yard of the line of
You're just
scrimmage.
trying to get the yardage usually, right? Like, so I'm expecting some like short slant to Shakir or something, but they got the look. To your point of it being intentional, they got a look that favored that matchup. And this was something I watched the Air Raid Hour pregame while I'm making my breakfast sandwiches every day, and they were kind of talking offense. And
Tilt.
I said it like I really thought this was a game, and I was thinking more Cook, but I thought this was a game of really targeting those linebackers and getting them moving in space, both horizontally and vertically, and attacking it. And I was like, oh, that's like a cool thing. Maybe they can sprinkle in. I didn't realize that was going to be like the game plan in terms of generating explosives. And what a good game plan. I mean, it makes sense on paper. That is the way to attack this team. If they're going to play man, get those linebackers in space with these guys. And what a well-rounded running back room this has been. That's probably on the offensive side of the ball, the biggest improvement outside of offensive line improvement over the last couple of years. This is the best running back room in the Sean McDermott era by far. I mean, you're 3 deep. They can all pass. They can all catch. They can all pass block. And James Cook's running tougher than he ever has. And they can all do things against linebackers that not every running back can do.
Yeah, it's really, impressive to see that kind of, again, James Cook still had an awesome game. James Cook had 14 carries for 105 yards, 2 touchdowns, caught a touchdown, or caught a 28-yard pass of his own. Ray Davis contributed with multiple. We get it. You get a lot of comments on that. So real quick, give the man a shout out. Where did the hat come from?
Yeah, so my guy Glenn Goodberry. I consider him I cover, and he's Buffalo on the Brain. You can find him on all social medias. He's got all kinds of good gear. He's hooked me up a couple times. I told him I think I might be his biggest social media influencer because I get a lot of comments on these hats, both out in public. Yeah, Greg's got one.
My hair is too nice to wear the hats, so I display them here. But I have a nice Glenn hat too, and my coffee mug that I always do my videos with. I have like Buffalo versus everybody is the one I use. The other side is the Buffalo on the Brain
I got
sticker.
a sticker here. I'm not going to show my computer because I'll unplug my computer or my camera. But I got the sticker, and the stickers that he has also you can scan Spotify and it plays the shout song. Or some of them I think play Benny the Butcher now.
Yeah,
we the Mafia. So yeah, Buffalo on the Brain, love them. I get more compliments on this hat than anything. People love it.
Yeah, just we're not sponsored by him. We just like him. He just does cool stuff.
He's just dope.
So obviously the last one on offense, the offensive line, phenomenal today. I'm not going to give them any crazy flowers because they were going against a very short-handed Detroit defensive line.
And 2 phantom calls against them.
Correct.
Offside that was not.
Yes, and super impactful. Like the offsides, like taking back, and the weird holding call that was for sure not a holding call, taking back the chest pass touchdown, like super impactful penalties that were, I was really happy early on. It seemed like it was pretty like conscious, hey, let's let the boys play. They were letting both sides be super physical, and that's cool. Like, hey, everybody wants to watch this game. Let's not make it a flag fest.
McDermott and Campbell want that too.
Correct. Yeah. But don't then start throwing ticky-tack stuff at the end. That was a little weird. It is what it is, but I'm not going to count that honestly against the offensive line. So again, 4 straight games, no sacks given up. Not with that, like every game, Josh saved their bacon a couple times. He's amazing. He's very difficult to sack, but they also did a great job. Yes, multiple of those were perfect pockets, really giving him time. And then again, 34 carries for 197 yards, 5.8 yards a carry. That is an Aaron Cromer stat. That is an offensive line stat. That is a we just punched you in the mouth stat. and that this ended up being a 50-50 game plan, 34 passes, 34 runs. Of course, a handful of those were called passes that Josh scrambled. But that's an offensive line game. So credit to them and kudos to them.
Yeah, and I do think Brady was in his bag, but I think sometimes maybe we forget how much Aaron Cromer is in actually the run design and the run.
Is he officially the run game coordinator?
I'm pretty sure he is still the run game coordinator. Whether or not he is, I know that he's got some say in how that run game looks, and some of those run looks that they had. Like, I cannot wait for Eric Turner's film room feature here this week, because it's going to be fun. There were so many cool wrinkles that the Bills were throwing at this Detroit Lions team, and that was a question I had going into this game, really mostly defensively, but was like, you know, you want this win, you want to get the win. I'm never saying that. And I think people took it the wrong way, but it was a fine line of like, do you throw the whole kitchen sink out there because you're putting it on film, or is some of the stuff that you save and keep for the playoffs in case you meet a team like this again? And I think the answer on both sides of the ball was they threw a lot out there tonight of different looks that I haven't seen from the Bills, including stuff in the run game that was really sexy run looks. And like a couple of those touchdowns, that one walk-in touchdown by Josh on a keeper walked right in. They looked so confused. They were all looking around at each other like nobody. There was nobody.
The defense had no idea where.
Deion Dawkins didn't even have anyone to block. Like they just walked in together.
And that happened at like the like, not game clinching, but that critical quarterback power sweep at the end. Spencer Brown was literally looking for someone to block and just running along with Josh, looking for someone to block.
That's good scheme.
That fake power toss, little shovel pass back to Khalil Shakir back inside for the touchdown. First time we've ever seen that. All kinds of stuff. It was, early to be able to get out there. And again, some of that, I know some people will be listening to like, oh man, maybe we should have kept some of that for the playoffs. Some of this is game plan specific on the team that plays the most man defense in the NFL. So, hey, what are our man beaters? These are our man beaters. We might not play a team the rest of the season that plays that much man defense.
No, not that much.
So, maybe a rematch in February. But that you need that that's what you do in this kind of game. So showing that doesn't really impact AFC playoffs because nobody in the AFC plays that much. Maybe the Ravens get a little bit closer, but not nearly as much as Detroit.
One of the better things Tony Romo said at some point, like they got to go zone. Like you're down so many guys. Like what are you doing? You're just staying stubborn at this point. And that's again, we are so hard on McDermott and Dan Campbell. Like there's not a lot of criticism that goes towards Dan Campbell. Like he's super aggressive. He goes for fourth. Like he's willing to do whatever for his team. I love Dan Campbell, but like he's got the same level of stubbornness in his coaching staff. I don't know if it's all directly on him or if it was an Aaron Glenn decision, but he didn't step in. Like people want McDermott to step in and stop the bleeding there and say like, hey, like let's try something different. This is not working. And so I think it's a coaching thing, not just a exclusive Deshaun McDermott criticism that we throw at our own coach.
Yeah. So real quick, we don't do this a lot during the show on the postgame show, but he's a friend of the show and frequent contributor here. So I'm going to bring up Ben Baldwin. Just put out his thread for the end, and I show this because the chart is fun, but the real comment or the real highlight is Ben's comment, which is the Bills' offense is a death machine.
Yeah,
like the Bills are so far out here in their own tier. He wrote, the Bills offense is a death machine. They are inevitable. Sam Martin punted once today, and it was awesome. It was a killer
punt. A great
they
punt.
Got downed in the 3-yard line, 51-yard punt down at the 3. And people were mad that we didn't go for it because how can you not be mad? We score every time we have the ball. Anytime we don't score, it feels like a failure because the results say that we probably will score. It's crazy. They are just scoring at a, Peyton Manning Broncos 07 Patriots greatest show on turf level of offense right now. It is unbelievable.
Yeah. I agree. Special teams. I mean, Bass had his miss, and that was
so
super
did Jake
frustrating.
One of the best kickers in the league and the number one DVOA special teams.
They exchanged them, which helped. But I thought special teams, other than that, was pretty good today. Like you mentioned, that Sam Martin punt came in a spot where the Bills got pinned deep because of it was a penalty, I think, on the previous punt, and it got them like they had a 90-yard drive ahead of them. They moved ahead a little bit, and then he really flipped the field there, and great punt by him. And so like if you only see him once or twice a game, I want it to be that type of consistency, right?
Oh, gotcha. And again, it's not realistic that we will never need a punter the rest of the season. I hope we have a lot more games like the last couple where it's 1 or 2 punts, and when he does, being able to do that. Yeah, Pat, in here, rumors persist that points are fun despite the best efforts of the refs. Yes, and I already tweeted it. Like, they can't make me unsee that chest pass touchdown. I saw it.
Yeah.
They can, I seen it. They can't make me unsee
Although
it.
I will give the refs some credit here in this one. The refs did something right tonight in overturning that fumble
Yeah.
by Benford. Like, they did it on their own. Sean McDermott didn't have to challenge that play.
Yes.
That is exactly how officiating is supposed to work. And so kudos, because I dog on the refs a lot in NFL officiating. They did a good one there.
Yeah, you should not have to force them to use you should not force them to have to double check your own mistakes on things like that. You should do it right. And obviously the Matt Cowens onside kick return, we recovered both onside kicks, although the last one gave me a little agita, so maybe not perfect. And a quick shout out to Brandon Codrington. People maybe don't realize he's a rookie that was an undrafted free agent that we traded for from the Jets. So we also traded for that same contract control. So we have him for 4 years of rookie contract control. He basically counts as our 7th round pick for, all intents and purposes here. He has my full confidence. He has earned my full confidence. I like that he's aggressive. I like that he pushes the envelope. I like that he probably makes Sean McDermott a little bit anxious sometimes, but he has that Andre Roberts energy that I want, where it's, listen, I want you to make good, aggressive decisions, to always fight for some extra yards and to be able to break one and to be able to get those little extra edges here or there. And he does that for me on a very consistent basis with, honestly, pretty few exceptions. He's been very sure with the ball, not perfect, but very sure-handed, and always looking for those little extra edges. And he had a couple of those today where the ball's bouncing a little bit. He sees some space. He grabs a couple extra yards, has some really, they almost pinned us back at one point. He got a 17-yard return that got us back out to like regular field position, and just consistently contributing. So a nice little extra check there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we go drive by drive here, again, this defense was put in a very difficult position.
Yeah.
We weren't sure about DeMar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp. Would one of them play? Would both of them play? Neither played. So all of a sudden we had Cam Lewis and Cole Bishop as our starting safeties. Then Cole Bishop gets cramps and had to go to the locker room for an IV.
Never
and
returned.
Kareem Jackson had to play. Matt Milano's back for his 3rd game back and got hurt during the game. So then Dorian Williams was rotating in. Then he got hurt. So Balen Spector was playing even more. So we just had multiple guys that were in. Kyer Elam in for Rasul Douglas. At 1.5 defensive starters out. And we had some of those guys making some good plays. Cam Lewis was not perfect. He, got big boyed a couple times because he's a little guy. He's a small guy. He's not a full-time starting safety, but he made some really nice plays. Cole Bishop was in good position. We did not get beat deep with a very dangerous, explosive offense. We had one on a broken tackle that Amon-Ra St. Brown
back on a hold, and luckily Jameson Williams dropped it, but it was similar to the play that DeMar gave up last against the Rams.
Yeah, at first I thought Bishop maybe broke it up, and then they showed the replay that it was just a drop, would have got called back on holding, but he had a step on him there. But ultimately, I thought this defense, especially shorthanded, it's weird to praise a defense when they gave up 42 points and 500 yards of offense, because that's a ton in unbelievable amount. But honestly, I thought in this circumstance, and especially with, we talked about it, and I really leaned into how they needed to increase the variance, turn up the blitzes. All you got to do is steal a possession or two, and it's exactly what they did. This is what I wanted to see, because I knew they could not hold up and sustain of like shutting them down. This is, a buzzsaw of an offense. We did exactly what was needed early on to get the game script that we needed, and then to continue getting aggressive. And then this defensive line had their best game in probably over a month.
Yeah, I think the defense played relatively well, and this is why like I'm getting murdered for using statistics like DVOA constantly. But this is why statistics like DVOA matter, because it's going to compare them against other teams that played the Lions, right?
Yeah.
And like I think their success rate is going to be pretty good. And game script played into a lot of how we saw them change how they were playing the game, right? It became all right. We're up 3 scores, so I think the Lions also did a good job in getting some deeper shots and scoring a little bit quicker, but it was kind of again hey, let's try to get into this bend but don't break mentality of forcing them to run a lot of plays and take time off the clock. Not every drive went that way. This is a good offense. Like on the defensive side, they're hurt. They are struggling. On the offensive side, they're healthy and they're like a machine, just like the Bills are offensively when they get going.
Respect Ben, Death Machine.
Well, they're not a death machine. The Bills are a death machine.
Sorry. I
Correct. They are just a machine. They're a few columns back on that chart.
They're like a like ouchie boo boo machine. We're a death machine.
Yeah, and what made them so good was the balance on both sides of the ball for most of the year, right? They were up in that top corner above on defense than the Bills, but just to the left of the Bills in offense. And obviously they're coming down a little bit on defense now, but this game they were just it was too much, I think, for them. But I think a lot of people are going to be upset with the defense because of the points and the yards. And I don't have a good counter for those things, but I saw a defense come out and put you in 2 stops right out of the gate, allow your offense to get going, which was clicking right out of the gate. Complementary football to start this game was exactly what you needed. Like none of us had a ton of confidence going into this. After those first 4 drives, I felt great, right? Like that's all I needed to get the ball rolling is give Josh Allen an arm's length to keep this team at arm's length and you're okay. And then later to start the second half, they did it again. They came out, Josh scored right away, stealing that possession. And then he stole another possession with another quick, I think it was a 3-and-out, or maybe they got a first down and then it was 3-and-out from there. From the defense. And yeah, you got sacks, you got pressure. Ed Oliver had a really good game in this one. I think he heard the criticisms of his play internally. I don't even know that he needs to hear it outside. I'm sure Sean McDermott was telling him it was time to step up, and he did. And if this could be a start for that defensive line to get going a little bit, because now you got some teams coming up where you can really gain some confidence the next 3 games. Like you could get some confidence rolling heading
even
into
rest some guys who need
that.
Injury wise, rest some guys that were in really healthy shape.
And it was nice to see Dwayne Smoot get back out there. He had a lot of nice reps. AJ Epinesa, man, he had a few where he didn't get the sack, but just enough of a hand in the face to alter plays.
Pressure.
Yeah, I had some guy in my mentions being like, "This is why pressure." Like Goff got loose on that 13-yard gain, and they were like, "This is why pressure doesn't matter." And I was like, "Dude, that's one. It's an anecdotal point because one play went that way, but like." I could point to 5-6 plays in this game where they got pressure on Goff, and it did matter, and it led to some of the stops.
How about all 3 times they punted?
Yeah.
The third down was because of pressure that we got them out of. Those were 3 turnovers. That's the exact same thing as a turnover. Is when you get pressure on a third down and they have an incompletion because of the pressure. That's the same thing as you're making them give you the ball back. That's a turnover.
Yeah, I thought they did they did what they had to do in this game, and nobody expected them to come out and shut this team down. Like Ben Johnson, when you're my brother's team, the Bears are looking for a coach right now, and it's Ben Johnson and Joe Brady. Those are the names of offensive coordinators that are the hottest, and we saw why tonight.
So before we get into the drive-by-drive, let's check out some of our friends here with the awesome super chats you guys are sending us. So Brian Fuhrer, I can't be here for the whole stream, but I tweeted y'all last week for helping me get through the loss. So here's 20 for doing amazing. I can't wait to listen tomorrow. Shout out. Appreciate you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
I really feel bad, so rest in peace to Dylan. I'm enjoying the win from the afterlife as I had a heart attack on the final onside kick.
Well, Taron Johnson, though, dog, dude. You know how it has to go on at the bottom.
Do you know how nasty the bottom of NFL piles are? Like, those are the strongest, most like hyper aggressive professional athletes on earth. It is like the 7th depth of hell at the bottom of those NFL piles. Video.
Grab him by the twist. Like that is what's going on. Yeah. Not good.
Flacio here. Appreciate you. Chris here. Flacio?
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going with it. You can't stop me.
Okay.
Chris Brady has Allen playing so damn stinking good. He'll be gone in a season or 2. Yeah. Our best case scenario is we get 1 more year with Joe Brady. That's our best case scenario. I think there's going to be enough openings that I will be fairly surprised if we get him back again next year. But that's a next year problem. I don't have time for that right now.
That's a different problem. And you know what? This is not the first time Josh Allen's looked like this, right? Like, I'm confident they'll find somebody else to make Josh.
Yeah.
Like, this is Josh Allen, right? Like, Brady was good. Brady did a lot of great things tonight. Josh Allen's goes into God.
Also, like, let's even take that another step further while we're on the topic real quick here. By far, the easiest sales pitch to the best offensive coordinator who didn't get a head coaching job is, hey, do you want to come coach Josh Allen?
Brian
So whether
Dable
it's
got a
Ronald
job.
Curry, which it might be, it might just be keeping it in-house and Ronald Curry, or it might be, what if it's one of the fired head coaches? What if it's like Doug Peterson or, you know, one of these guys who loses their job and be like, hey, you want to just come back and hang out? Because I will say there's a piece of me in the back of my mind that's wondered, like, could we get our offensive Steve Spagnuolo? Could we get a fight? Because Steve Spagnuolo was a failed head coach who got fired and now has just kind of been old and not really thought of as a head coach anymore. So now KC just kind of gets to just hide in this window of having one of the most brilliant defensive coaches without really any threat to lose him. I'm trying to think of who that guy is that could maybe be a failed play caller, offensive coordinator who was a good offensive coordinator that we could get, that we don't have to worry as much about losing. Peterson's the one that is stuck in my mind because he's not a head coach, but he is inarguably a good offensive mind.
Sure.
I'm wondering who that kind of guy is who could get fired and then maybe be that guy that we bring
Mike
in.
McDaniel.
I mean,
he's not getting fired. There's enough.
But as soon as he does, I'm making phone calls. I would gladly take him.
But like, look at Pittsburgh is an organization that I always
producer Chris said Eric Bieniemy.
I mean, well, look at like Nagy went back to. I know Andy Reid's the play caller, but Nagy went back. Pittsburgh's a team that I often bring up when we have these conversations because they don't have an offensive head coach and they continue to be a successful team. Maybe they're not a Super Bowl contender every single year, but they're a successful team. And Arthur Smith was a guy that everyone was dunking on the last like 2 years as just a total failure of a head coach. And like, I don't know what the result of that Pittsburgh Eagles game was, but he's got Russ like resurrected, and Russ was a joke last year, right? Like, and so all it takes, there's a lot of these guys are around, I guess, is my only point.
And a lot of these guys only look good when they have great quarterbacks. It's funny how that works. Like Kevin O'Connell's the only one who seems to be like fully resurrecting guys.
Yes.
Matt LaFleur, his stretch that he had when he had Malik Willis and what he's coached through.
I think
with
Shanahan
Jordan Love.
makes some bad quarter. Like Brock Purdy's not looking great.
Correct. Yes, it's a great call. He for sure has as well. Yeah, Shanahan and McVay don't even count. I don't even count them.
Yeah. No. Brian Dable doesn't look great right now. That's all.
Correct. That's what I mean. Like, you know, even really good, genuinely good.
Might get him back.
You said, hey, producer Chris is on board. So a couple more here before we get to the drives in the different there. Wayne here saying no talking points. What an absurd few weeks of Bills football. Subscriber to Cover One Pass. I cannot confirm nor deny whether this is actually Smug Alpaca. In our Cover One Discord, there is a character who goes by Smug Alpaca, and this gentleman Wayne Cleary is alleging to be that person. I can neither confirm nor deny such reports. Again, Nick Lowe, always a big supporter of ours, big dubs coming in the Lions home field after. Yeah, those two things also. So being shorthanded on defense, plus in Detroit, and them with a rest advantage on the mini bye coming off of the Thursday game. That was a huge part of this here.
And this was a true road game. Like a lot of the Bills games have been like 40.
Detroit showed
fans.
Up. Detroit showed up.
They weren't selling those tickets, dude. Those tickets on the aftermarket.
I was going to say, that's why. So the reason we didn't take over is this was the most expensive ticket in the NFL this season.
Yeah.
The get-in price, I think I saw $495, $498, something like that. That was the get-in price, not like the good
secondary,
seat. Like that was like bad seat secondary market, like the get in the door for bad seats, $495. That's why. So shout out to the Bills Mafia that were there, the ones who mostly planned ahead. But the reason we couldn't take over is because it was $500 a pop.
I don't know what all you guys do for a living, man. You guys must make TikTok videos.
Some of these people who go to all these games, like I got a good job. I don't know how these people, the plane tickets and the game tickets and the hotels and like. Good Lord! Like I
plan for on the internet or something.
Yeah, one Disney trip a year. I don't know how this works. I got to sell feet pics or something.
Man.
Paul Mitchell said Frank Reich as an offensive coach, but I don't think it's Frank Reich. But that kind of guy. And Doug Peterson is the guy in my mind who is like kind of a joke as like Doug Peterson is not going to get another head coaching job. That I'm sure of. I don't know if he's the right fit for us as the offensive coordinator that's sustainable with Josh Allen. I'm not even defending that in the moment.
Sure.
It's that kind of guy where like, hey, could we get a 5 or 8 year run because he's not going to get another job, but he can be sustainable with Josh. And like, that's what I'm looking for is, can we do these things?
I'm waiting for somebody to be like, Josh doesn't even need an OC. He can just run the K gun. That's all I'm waiting for that comment.
Peyton Manning stuff. Low Buff, our man Chris F saying all these guys are making 6 figures on YouTube. It's all the successful YouTube producers.
Getting to the tickets, man. It's expensive living out there. Inflation, right? All right.
Someone's going to clip that.
Let's go.
All right. So obviously the Bills started out with, you always ask when the game's about to start, wait, who won the toss? And it's always like, who made the choice and where does it go? The Bills won the toss and deferred. So the combination of starts, I am going to lean out here, and this is going to be my West Herr drive of the game. The combo here is going to be what does it, because the Bills win the toss, they defer to the second half. So it opens up and like, all right, we know how painful that opening scoring drive was against the Rams last week, and we knew, okay, what can we do? Can we get a turnover? Can we hold them to a field goal? No. The Bills come out. We see pressure right off the bat. Jared Goff has to throw the ball away. Then they go jumbo set, and Ed Oliver gets a TFL on the first play. Maybe no gain. I think it technically went for no gain, but no gain, nothing there. Then Goff has to rush a throw to Jamison Williams on 3rd and 10. Boom, 3 and out, 58-second possession. They didn't even have the ball 1 full minute. So you get the immediate, like, okay, we just stole the halftime possession, because now they went 3 and out, less than a minute. We're going to get the ball with 14 minutes still on the clock in the first quarter. Plus we get the ball out of half. So boom, we just already stole a possession. I was asking for 2 of those going into the game. I wanted to steal 2 possessions. Boom, we already stole 1. We're already in good position. But it's in the back of my mind that, all right, that only matters if we don't, is this going to be different where it's, hey, we're expecting a bunch of points, but it turns into this weirdly, competitive chess match of back and forth, better defense than what we expected. And instead, the Bills come out 7 plays, 73 yards, good mix of run and pass right off the bat. We see the isolation where they get Ty Johnson out on Quan Alexander, leaking out behind the other guys, where they find out they have him bump out in pre-snap motion to identify that he's in man, and then just put him one-on-one out there to be able to get isolated on a guy who came off the couch, slightly better than AJ Klein, but similar in that sense. He was a street free agent, former very, very good player, but now no longer a guy who should be playing in isolation on any NFL pass receiver, Quan Alexander. Right. Keep moving their way down the field. They hit him again for another 24 yards later on a 3rd and 5 where Josh is almost out of bounds. And even so, normally he does the almost out of bounds and leaps out of bounds while his momentum's still going out. This time he stopped and shuffled back 2 steps back inbounds, which made me nervous about taking a big shot. But hits Ty Johnson, who leans down, is able to get the ball in there. We then go down to the 1 with a run from Ty Johnson, and then the tush push into the end zone on the touchdown. My initial West Herr drive of the game. Rumors are that there may be 6 of these. We end up with a 7-play, 73-yard drive. And now not only do we steal the possession, not only do we get the ball coming out of half, but we just opened up with a 7-0 lead and be able to start to, take control of this game.
Yeah, you stole my West Herr drive of the game that I was going to start with, but you can keep this up because I'll just keep rolling with this. This might just turn into a 40-minute West Herr segment. I don't know.
West Herr game of the year?
Yes. Yeah. Bradley, we might even send you an invoice for this one. This might go deep into the gut here.
We're getting some additional sponsorship monies.
Yeah. One thing I will say on that last drive too, I don't want it to be lost that I'm pretty sure there was a defensive pass interference on Khalil Shakir in the end zone on a bomb by Allen. That, again, another call that was phantomly not called in favor of the Bills. So I'd just like to point those out, that Khalil Shakir got robbed there and should have been, but the Bills still had the opportunity. But I circled that because I wasn't sure that could have been one of those big ones that impacts you, where if they do end up punting on this drive, it's like, man, you wish you had that one back. So I'm going to keep this graphic up because you talked about having a good start and that game script. And so the Bills defense comes back out on the field after that. And it's like, okay, Ben Johnson's going to settle in, get back into his scripted stuff. They're going to march right down the field. And now we're going to start going matching points back and forth. And my view was, if you could give Josh Allen an arm's length, the way this offense just looked coming out, if you can get him the ball back here and give him a 2-score lead, which that's what I consider about an arm's length in the NFL, is give me 2 scores and I feel like Josh Allen can score, keep you at that arm's length throughout the day. They come out, they go for a run, they get a 1-yard run. This was a great run fit by Cole Bishop early in the game, it was really exciting to see. I understand what people want him in. I was huge on Cole Bishop in the draft process, Greg. I think I picked him almost every single mock that we did. Not as high as the Bills picked him, but I picked him every single mock that the Bills picked him. And you saw the athleticism here, which is something that you don't always see with DeMar Hamlin. I get that. But this was a great run fit for him. Comes in, limits it to a 1-yard run. They get 2nd and 9. They get 10 yards. They get the first down. But from there, they go, this was a great play. And this was something I've been begging the Bills to do. And Eric pointed out, it might not have been totally intentional or not. I don't know. I got to watch it back. But on 1st and 10, they bring both corners on a blitz. And Benford sacks Jared Goff for an 8-yard loss. And you put him in 2nd and 18. He gets a 5-yard pass. And you're in 3rd and 13. And this is Ed Oliver again, brings pressure. You're on a 3rd and long. This is exactly where Ed Oliver is supposed to do what we expect him to do. He gets the sack. You're for a 5-yard loss. They punt back to the Bills here. And then you can take over on the offense here. I wanted to talk about that defense getting you the 2 stops here to start out the game.
It was enormous to be able to have that kind of control. Because again, you talked about it. We didn't know if we were going to get a stop. We didn't know if we would get a singular one stop of what was there that we have to be able to, take advantage of. And instead, they go through and they get 2 stops on their first 2 drives. And not only do they get 2 stops, they come back and answer with back-to-back touchdowns. So they got the ball first, and we come back now 9 plays, 78 yards, open up with a shot to James Cook, again, taking advantage of running back, this time on one of their stud safeties. This was on Kirby Joseph. This wasn't on one of the backup linebackers. Then keep going to a little one to Shakir for a chunk of yards, 6-yard scramble by Josh, a 5-yarder to Kincaid. That goes through then another run by Josh, then 13 yards by Cook. And then now this is the one I think where it ends up being like
walks right
weirdly wide open, where Josh just like trots into the end zone with nobody near him.
Not even anyone.
And now again, they got the ball first, and we are up 14-0. Kyle Popular is saying, I'm a transplant in Ty Johnson's hometown, and I can't go anywhere in Bills gear without people talking to me about him. I think that'll happen more now. Yeah, Kyle, you're going to need to, honestly, once this show ends, first, obviously, listen to the rest of the show. Don't do anything silly.
And smash a like while you're here, too.
Yeah, man. Press everybody else who's listening to Kyle, and be cool like Kyle. Press the like button. He lives in Ty Johnson's hometown. You got to listen to somebody as smart as that. After the show, you need to go do some extra research to know a couple extra nuggets about Ty Johnson, because you're going to get so many questions about him going forward. So prepare for that. They may interview you. Your local newspaper may call you as the local Bills fan to get extra insight on Ty Johnson. So prepare yourself. You need to do some research and get yourself ready. So again, we come down here, and now finally the Lions do answer back, because of course they did. The Lions are awesome. Of course they were going to answer back at some point. This one, we actually had a couple people like upset in the Discord because they scored. And like, well, did you think we were going to shut the Lions out? I was worried we weren't going to get a single stop the entire game.
Correct.
They scored.
You did shut them out for a quarter, because this drive goes into the second quarter.
It took into the second quarter. We ended the first quarter 14-0.
Yeah, and the Lions are the best second quarter team ever in the history of all of football.
Not even the best second quarter team ever. The Lions' second quarter is the most dominant point differential of any quarter in NFL history. Note, they were like plus 183 or something absurd like that. 138, maybe it's 183 in the season, 138 in the quarter. I don't remember which one. But it was the highest point differential of any quarter by any team in NFL history. They have just boat race teams going into the half. They actually did beat us 14-7. They got 7
that's
more
why you had to get this
in this game.
14-point lead.
Yeah, correct. We just had to survive their second quarter. And we did, so shout out to us. But we go through, they do carry over into the second quarter. So this drive started in the first quarter, but carried over to the second quarter. Good mix of run and pass here. They had the couple. Gibbs is so fast. Did you hear Gibbs' acceleration is like the fact that we, like, in theory, held him to only 114 yards. It was 31 rushing and 5 for 83 receiving. He is so fast. It's crazy. But
there's a play here on this one. Like, Benford's such a good defender in the open field, and he got caught like a touch flat-footed, and Gibbs you can't, like, he's the hardest guy, in my opinion, right now in the NFL to be open field with. Like, if he catches you at all, he's just gone. And Benford didn't even take a bad angle. He just got caught with a step, and it was just like a burst of speed from Gibbs for 10 yards and a first down. Like, it's incredible what he can do when he gets a step.
Chris Seth here saying it was plus 191 before today, which is absurd. Crazy. And whoever had the last comment up said that I did a Google search of Ty Johnson, and ESPN had a picture of Ray Davis.
That checks out.
That checks out. That checks out. Yeah. But the most important thing, and this happened almost the entire game. I think there was only it did happen the entire game. Every time they scored, we matched with a score the entire game. Every single time. I mean, technically the onside kick recovery at the end. But every single time they scored, we matched with a score. Take that. Darn it. I missed it. We missed one field goal. But the first one was right here, where they came down, they scored. It was obviously a critical drive to get them back into it, but we answer back 9 plays, 70 yards, answer with a score of our own, being able to set ourselves up. We opened up here with the nice one to Dawson Knox. He get the awesome catch later in the game. But then a nice mix, a couple to Kincaid, some nice runs to James Cook, took a shot, and then getting another one. Again, Ty Johnson getting him isolated and getting him out there.
On that 4th and 2.
Yes, 4th and 2 ended up going over the top, and they ran that legal pick play where they got him isolated out and couldn't have him cut around everybody else. And then this one,
Sean McDermott gets some credit for going for it on 4th and 2, or do we just only talk about when they
only negative things? Only Josh Allen does the good things. Sean McDermott only does the bad things. And this was actually like a 4th and it was a long 2. It was almost 4th and 3.
And they weren't at midfield yet. This is
correct. They're on their own side of the field. Close
better than their one from last week. It wasn't. I think the last week was like
last was at their own 41.
Yeah, this was at like
49. So 8 yards further up, and honestly, probably even a little bit longer. This was closer to 4th and 3 than the other one was, but still a full 4th and 2. But they went for it here, and again, I would like to have seen last week, but I've let that go. They went for it here, and obviously isolated, had the perfect play call. And this one, you even got to credit Ty Johnson, because Josh almost put it over him a little too far. Ty Johnson had to really reach out to get it.
Those are tough catches to make. Like, these guys make that look easy, tracking a ball, but it's not easy.
Full speed, over the shoulder. Those are tough. Nikki here saying Ty Johnson and Knox had 2 of the most insane catches, again, by a running back and a tight end at full speed, with Josh trying to loft it up over with pressure in his face. Those are huge catches. So that 4th down conversion, then we get a Ray Davis 7-yard run, another pass to Ty Johnson again, and then this time James Cook goes in almost untouched on his play. And we answer right back, going up 21-7 to remain in control of the game.
Yeah, no, that was a nice drive. And I want to go back to the Knox. You said the Knox for the 19 yards. This is a big play because they actually get a holding on the first play of the drive and goes back to 1st and 20. And a lot of teams struggle in that type of situation where you're way behind the chains. And we don't see the Bills there a lot. Earlier in the year, they had the rush of penalties, and that shot them in the
cleaned
foot.
It up lately.
That would shoot them in the foot in games like this where the offense would start slow. It was because they would get themselves into penalty situations and not be able to convert the first down. Knox gets 19 on a 1st and 20, which puts you back ahead of schedule. Like if you can do those types of things, that's what allows you to continue a drive like this. So a bit of a lost play in a nice scoring drive where if say that pass doesn't get completed and it's 2nd and 20 and unfortunately for you, the Bills would run on 2nd and long probably and get themselves into a 3rd and long. And then we got a totally different ball game, right? From that situation. But instead you go up 21-7. And again, just feeling like you got a stiff arm on this team heading into the second quarter where they're going to score. This is where they play their best football.
Yeah. And of course they did. They come back with a 10-play, 70-yard scoring drive, move their way down again. They hit the one to Jamison Williams early on. Then a couple run plays and incompletion where you get him to 4th and 4. I felt like we had a shot here, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown is just really, really tough. Ends up getting loose. That one goes for 21. One of their not a ton of explosive plays, but a big one there, especially on 4th and 4. Then they get the we get a couple other stops here. We get into 3rd and 10, and then this is the one. Yeah, this is the one that really hurt. You were there for a sack that would have probably knocked them back to maybe the 35. So you're talking like a 52-yard field goal,
which we saw miss later.
And instead, which he missed later on in the game. But instead, Javon Solomon can't clean it up here. He scrambles out, and Jared Goff runs for a 10-yard first down.
The slowest first down I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God, it felt like it was happening in slow motion. And then they stole my glory. They ran a really well-designed big man touchdown here because they had the jumbo set. They had it where we use Alec Anderson, but they had another tight end after him and another receiver on the wing. So it made it easy to be able to lose track of the fact that he even was eligible on the play. Nobody was guarding him. Which of course they're not. What are you going to guard? It's an offensive tackle.
Who's supposed to get that guy?
Yeah. It's why these plays work the way that they do. So he's wide open, catches the one. Good for him. He ran for like half of that, if not more. Like he caught that at about the 5 or 6 yard line and ran in the other 5 yards. And poor Cam Lewis had to try to hit a 6'9", 330-pound dude.
Good for Cam, man. Though I got to say, like they scored a touchdown there, and he definitely ran him over, but. This is why, amongst other reasons, like I didn't win a genetic lottery, why I'm not an NFL player is I would make a business decision. I'm making a business decision there, Greg. Like I'm not taking that contact on. Good for Cam taking that contact on there. When we get into this drive, next one, Greg, this is where it was like 4 minutes and something, I think, left.
3:01. 3:01 to go.
3:01 left in the half here. And in my mind, I was thinking like, okay, like 4-minute drive mentality. Let's bleed it out and score going into half, activate that double dip, and let's freaking party in the second half. But instead, Josh comes out right out of the gate here, 1st and 10, and launches. And I don't think he does this stuff so much that I don't even know that it's as appreciated as it should be anymore because he's done it so many times. But that 64-yarder to Keon Coleman while getting just nailed in the face on this hit, like
hard,
dude. Like I really don't think
honestly, maybe the hardest hit he's taken all season.
He took another one later in the game that was a clean hit too.
Yes, correct.
That was like right into the chest. That just
I take that back. That's the one I was thinking of. You're right. Okay, that one was even harder.
This was not like this one. It wasn't the craziest hit, but like still to just be able to just do that and take a hit and launch it just 64 yards almost effortlessly and on a dime. He's done it so much that I really don't know that we appreciate it as much as we should. Like we love it and we're excited about it, but this is a rare ability that not a lot of guys have and possess. And it totally derailed my plan of like, hey, let's matriculate the ball down the field and just take all the time off the clock. Nope, 64 yards. And then you get the half the distance to the goal and you're at 1st and goal.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So here, I know there was some frustration in this spot because we're at 1st and goal at the 3. James Cook gets a run down to the 1. So now it's 2-minute warning. We get a 2nd and goal at the 2. We get the quick out to Curtis Samuel because I think we're kind of intentionally trying to run the clock or trying to be careful with it to keep it moving. He catches it and kind of goes out of bounds. There, the one who gets touched right before he goes out of bounds.
The Lions take a timeout.
So then they have to take a timeout. So now it's 3rd and goal at the 1. I'm a little bit surprised we didn't just line up for back-to-back tush-push plays here, but they don't.
But
Dan
the play
Dawkins gets
also was there too.
correct.
Like we're
Correct.
playing the hindsight. So that was the argument I was having with people. Is like I agree. In my preference, I want to go with the high success rate play that keeps the clock running, and I'll do it twice. I don't get like the first one
Correct.
failed.
So
I'll go twice.
for anybody, I know there was some frustration because obviously last week people wanted the tush push play. There were some things later on, or we didn't want the tush push. Now we do want the tush push, but it was the polar opposite of time scenarios.
Mhm.
Last week, the risk was, hey, if it doesn't go well, we don't have the time. Here, you almost are like, hey, I want to run the tush push, and I'm not even that sad if we don't get it on the first one because we'll burn another timeout. I'm a little surprised that wasn't the play call, but again, it looked like it was about to work, but instead, I think it was just a wonky start to the play, and the one Lion defensive lineman timed the snap and just about looked like he jumped, but he didn't. It was right as the snap was going, and our offensive lineman also moved as the snap was happening. No one was offsides.
That
No
I
one
could
had a
see.
false start, and they threw a flag anyways and just said, it
Deion
was on
Dawkins.
Deion Dawkins.
Yeah.
Like it was not a false start. So now it takes what looked like it was about to be a touchdown off the board. And now it's 3rd and 6. So now you're in a weird spot where now you have to throw from there. So we try to, Josh kind of scrambles, nobody's open. He tries to kind of force it to Mac Hounds, almost gets it in there, but Brian Branch makes an awesome play. Their backup outside quarter, Khalil Dorsey, has a nasty, look like almost compound fracture of his ankle, twisted his foot around the wrong direction.
Ugh.
And now you're at 4th and 6. Now, this is the one where I was very critical of McDermott last week on some of the decision making. The number of people who thought it was like a slam dunk to go for it on 4th and 6.
For real?
Yes.
I missed that.
Yes.
Wow.
Like it's 4th and 6. Like this isn't 4th and 2 or 4th. It's 4th and 6. Like even the ESPN has one of the more aggressive 4th down bots. Ben Baldwin has another one. Both of them were either toss up or kick. I think Baldwin was a kick and ESPN was a toss up, or both of them were toss up, but slightly in favor of the kick. I get it. We need to be hyper aggressive in games like this where we end up scoring 90 points total in the game. So, of course, we needed points. But 4th and 6 is a field goal. Like 4th and 6 is not a go for it. Like in the first half. In the first half. Like late in the game, if you're doing some like score math late in the game where you're up 10 and a field goal only puts you up 13, sure. Like there are scenarios where I'll go for it on 4th and 6. But like
not this
early
one.
To go up 2 scores. Like that's a kick every single time. So there are things that I'm not happy with McDermott on that he didn't do perfectly. This wasn't one of them. Like
no,
and again, I say all this beforehand. Tyler Best missed the kick. Missing the kick doesn't change the decision. That sucks. But you absolutely have to count a 24-yard field goal as an automatic make. You have to. Your decision making has to count a 24-yard field goal as an automatic make. You cannot take into account like, well, he's been kind of iffy. I wonder if he's going to miss a 24-yard kick. That cannot be a factor in your decision making.
No, and he hadn't been iffy for a while.
He'd been really good.
Like he'd been really good. And he was really good later in the game. This one, Chris brought it up earlier. Like these ones are tough because you're close and you're lined up on a hash.
It's almost harder. Yeah, you're so close.
No room for error with the ball.
Congratulations to Tyler Bass. It's the closest miss in the NFL this year. It's the shortest missed field goal, but it means it's also 24 yards. You're barely off of there. You're so close, and at the far hash. Like if anything, I guess we should have taken into account. We should have ran the ball the other direction or something.
Other direction, get a different hash. Yeah, but I mean, you were throwing on 3rd down, so I don't know how much you can move it in that scenario. So, but yeah, no. If I could play the results, I would be at the casino all the time and winning blackjack like crazy. Like that is not how any of it works. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't realize people were upset about that. But then the Lions get the ball and actually do a good job managing the clock, but the Bills get a good stop. And they exchange misses here and kind of bails them out a little bit from the mistakes that were made. Because, dude, I got killed on that drive because I said I would have liked them to do the tush push thing twice, but that I was going to give Joe Brady a little bit of grace because he called a literal perfect game up into that point that I was like, hey, we expect perfect.
The false start play was about to be a touchdown. So he had another touchdown play called.
Correct.
It just it get called back, and now
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're in that spot. But it was about to be a
But
touchdown.
God forbid I give somebody grace in a moment where they're being almost absolutely perfect. People are like, no, you can't. This was a huge mistake. And it's like, Jesus, I can't say
Fire him.
anything. Yeah.
So now and obviously makes it feel worse because the Lions come out. Their first 3 plays are 22 to Laporta, 22-yard pass to Laporta, 8-yard to St. Brown, 16 to St. Brown, and boom, they're at the Bills 34 like instantly with 55 seconds left. Come up and spike the ball. Now they get an incompletion, and both of these are with pressure. So Ed Oliver on the first one, the second one he gets chased out of the pocket by a combination of guys with Miller and Groot, and
Huge
tries
hit
to
by
throw
Taryn
it
on that. What was going to be a catch.
yeah, the breakup on second down was on that huge, like, doubled him over. Not quite Milano Mike White, but close to that kind of like right in the gut, doubled him over.
Got him.
So get a big time stop, 4th and 10. They have to attempt a 52-yard field goal. And Jake Bates, who's been awesome for them, he was the street free agent kicker who was from the XFL. And if I understand right, didn't even kick in college. Was a backup who couldn't get on, but was pretty good the whole time, and ended up then kicking in the XFL and UFL and stuff like that. And then comes around, and this was his first miss of 50+ yards all season. Misses from 52, a really ugly kick, bad miss, like a confidence impacting miss, like a really ugly miss.
Like how you tell me you drive the golf ball.
Correct. It was it was exactly how my drives looked. It was exactly like where you immediately know from the moment it leaves my club, this is not
I'm pulling another one out of my pocket.
Yeah. I'm immediately dropping another ball. I'm not even watching the rest of the path of where it goes. So now that turns things around where, are we going to get out of this with one? And I will say maybe the best defensive play call that Aaron Glenn had all day. Really good disguised coverage. It wasn't a blitz, but he dropped defensive lineman out and brought a linebacker into safety, caught us off guard. One of the only times our protection was not ready, ends up kind of collapsing the pocket. Josh literally has nowhere to go with the ball and tries to kind of just get rid of the ball and pretend he was throwing it to somebody, but it was the most accurately called intentional grounding
100%.
of the season. Intentional grounding correctly. Some people were confused because an incomplete pass is not a running clock, but except for an intentional grounding, because otherwise you're benefiting from an illegal pass. So it counts like a running clock. So I think there was some debate on should McDermott have used one of the 2 timeouts or should he have taken the 10 seconds. It's a coin flip because at best you're saving 10 seconds and probably less than that with a timeout. So I think that was it wasn't good either way, but it's probably the lesser of evils.
They only had 2.
Right. Correct. There, right? And you were now at 2nd and 21. So it was not an automatic that you were even going to be in position. You don't actually want to give the Lions any time. So they end up letting the 10 seconds go off to 21. They get the 15-yarder to Kincaid, call the timeout. So now they're at 12. They then get a 6-yarder to Shakir, call the timeout. They have a first down, and they're with 8 seconds left at the 48-yard line. They did the right thing. They tried to run a play. They ran a 6-second play with a flood route. If they get it to Kincaid, it would have been about a 15-yard play that would have put it at the 33. So now you're talking about a 51-yard field goal.
It was close.
Instead, you're at the 48. It would have been a 66-yard field goal.
I do think he had Shakir on that 1st and 10.
Sure. But did
across,
to be able to yes, but not to get out of bounds in time.
No, Shakir, it would have been close.
Maybe,
I think he could have got out of bounds. I'm gonna have to watch on the all 22, but he was looking. He was
8 seconds left on the play, so by the time you get throwing it to Kincaid, that was at 2 seconds with the incompletion.
Yeah.
So maybe Shakir comes across and catches it and can get out of bounds, but it would have been super tight. But but that was the right thing. They needed to try to get some more yards on the play. They don't. I will say my gut is I probably would have let Bass try the 66-yarder just because a Hail Mary or a pitchy woo woo screenplay is not any likelihood, and at least there's a chance Bass could make it from 66, but ultimately it didn't really matter. They were ready for the screen. Nothing really happened. We just the half ends.
Happy to get out of the half at that point, exchanging the misses on the kicks. you had a chance to score before the half on the drive before. Like I think too much was made out of that end of half, at least on my timeline.
Sure.
In terms of the frustration, you're in a no-win situation there with 2 seconds left from
Yeah.
that point. Like I agree with you. Let Bass give it a shot to try, but then you're also opening yourself up to a return possibility if he misses real short.
Yes.
There's
Or
no good answer.
66 yarders, you're also having to keep it down low, much easier to block, and you could have a block
Sure.
back for a score,
Yeah.
or it's just all.
A
Again,
lot
I
more
don't
can
think it
go
was.
wrong than is probably going to go right in any of the
Sure.
scenarios.
Yeah. Again, I think I would have tried it.
Give it a shot.
Because they ran a play anyways. Things can happen on the play. You never
Yeah.
know. It's not like they took a knee, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Shocking. Go ahead.
I was gonna say crazy. Allen stat line for the first half: 14 of 19 for 254 yards in the first half of football.
First half. It's bananas. He's so good. He's
so
good.
He's handsome.
There's rumors that are being. Hold on, I'm getting a message from. Yes, there is an additional bonus West Herr Drive of the game because we come out and now, however you want to talk about it, you have a motivating coach like Dan Campbell. You have a weird, wonky end of the half where at a minimum they scored last. They were the last team to score. So they cut it to 21-14. We both exchanged missed field goals, but then they probably feel pretty good about the fact that they ended the half without giving up any more points.
But even on the start of this drive, they're interviewing Dan Campbell as the drive's about to start, and you can hear him screaming like, "We got to stop him on this one!
Yeah.
Like this is a crucial drive." And I'm like, "Yeah. We got to score on this one!" Like,
in the I don't know, not Aaron Andrews, but whoever the sideline reporter was, asked a question about Allen having 254 yards and all the points and everything like that. Man, are you guys going to? And the Campbell almost got a little mad about it, about her questioning them about it, and had a we'll see about that. It had that kind of tone in one of the answers, and I was like, oh, he's not happy. He's not happy.
I know old bar customers. I feel like Dan Campbell smells like if you get too up close to him, like chewing tobacco and a little
shout
bit
out
of
to
like
my wife.
bourbon.
She noticed like at the one point where he like really got animated, you could see how yellow his bottom teeth were from all the chewing tobacco that he uses.
And he's got the red nose from drinking hard liquor for sure.
What's wrong with his teeth? I was like, oh yeah, he chews tobacco. That's what. That's what
100%. Yeah.
So the Bills come out, and again, our friends over at West Herr, biggest automotive dealer in New York State, one of the biggest employers in Western New York. Awesome people. Brad and his team are fantastic to work with. Again, they get a bonus West Herr Drive of the game because this is the score that really set up what the entire rest of the game was, where, like you said, our stiff arm. Like we just kept them at arm's length and wouldn't let them catch up. We went into the half only up 7. We started here. If they get a stop, it makes it where, hey, all of a sudden, is the momentum going to start rolling? Do they take it back? They were never able to ever take the lead or tie the game because we continually stayed 2+ scores up all the way until 6 seconds left in the game because of this drive. 4 plays, 70 yards, 1:49. There was a run to Ty Johnson. Then we get a pass to Ty Johnson again. Using him out in the pass play, then 6 yards to James Cook, and then James Cook just explodes off of left tackle and goes for 41 yards for another big time play. Look just like that breakaway in the snow game, another big play rushing touchdown from James Cook, helping people's fantasy teams in this game.
He got his hair yanked.
Almost. Yeah, he might have even lost a dread. I couldn't really see in the replay.
I don't think he did. I thought so at first, and then when they showed the replay, I didn't see it. But the contact balance he had after that moment, because like that shook him back a little bit, and then he kind of like stiff armed off the incoming defender and kind of got a bump off that guy to take it into the house. Great run, man. My kids love watching James Cook run the football. Like when he has these big explosives like that, fantastic. And I think we need to keep this drive of the game up because, again, complimentary football is real and Sean McDermott wants it. And that is how you beat good teams like this. And the Bills defense answers this quick 4-play, 70-yard, 1:49 scoring drive by the Bills and gets them the ball right back. And the Bills don't score after, but you get a stuff.
The most dominant defensive line possession of the game. They blew up all 3 plays.
All 3 plays. Stuffed by Ed Oliver on first down. It went for 1 yard, but whatever. You get him into 2nd and 9. Gibbs gets 2 yards, and now you're in a 3rd and 7. And this was a sack by 3 out of the 4 linemen. I think Groot technically got the sack, but it was Ed was there, Vaughn was there, Groot was there, and a huge sack on a third down where they really wanted to get back in this game at that point, going down 21 or 28-14. And you end up giving the ball right back to the Bills for a chance to score. The Bills don't capitalize on that, but I want to shout out the defense every moment we get, because statistically it wasn't a great game. I'm sure the narrative about this defense is going to continue to be, this isn't a good defense, but they stepped up when you needed it the most to keep them at an arm's length.
Yeah, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
And the Bills here, it's a good example where the drive the Bills answer with was our only punt of the day. So obviously it's not a great offensive drive because we didn't get points, and we got points on almost every other possession. But this one, it was still 8 plays, 37 yards, and 4 minutes and 13 seconds. So this took it down to 7 minutes left in the
Dan
third
Campbell
quarter.
wanted that 4 minutes left back.
Yeah, so it still was impactful. So you get Ray Davis gets a 2-yard run and then a 9-yard pass. You get a first down there. Then Josh scrambles for 10, another first down. Then you get a thrown away ball. Then Josh scrambles again for another first down. And you're seeing them talk about how, what are they going to do? They're trying to spy him. They're trying to change up. This is where they changed and took Campbell off of the spy and put a different guy on. Then we go, and they actually do get a negative play. One of the first times all game we did not have a lot of negative plays. Brian Branch comes and blows a play up. We get Ray Davis in the backfield. So now we get it to 2nd and 12, try to get a pass to Matt Collins. It goes incomplete. And now we get Khalil Shakir for 7 yards. And it's at a spot where I think, there was some debate. It's 4th and 5. And I think I would have been okay if they went for it here. The metrics were toss up. This was not an automatic go for it. You're in your own side of the field. You have a 2-score lead. You did just get a 3-and-out on the previous possession. So you're now in a position where, like, hey, do you have a little bit of trust here? And they decide to punt it. And the best thing you can get is Sam Martin pays it off with an awesome punt. Bounces it about the 8 or the 9.
Great
Matt
coverage by Matt
Collins
Collins.
gets it. It checks up. He's able to let it bounce a little bit. He's in great position. Lets it dribble down all the way down to the 4.
Points and laughs at the Lions guy.
Yeah. I do like how petty Matt Collins is. It's really, really great. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, he's he reminds me of like Joakim Noah, where other teams for sure hate him.
Yes,
and we
for
love
sure.
him. Yeah.
Yes, I will say I don't know who is higher on my list, but Ty Johnson and Matt Collins are at the top of my need to re-sign next year list.
Just because of the hair alone, the conditioner they must go through in the locker room got to be insane.
You could do commercials. There's so many opportunities.
I'm gonna rip right into another drive of the game. West Herr, you're getting
West Herr. Congratulations! It's a great day for West Herr.
It's a great day. Josh Allen's a West Herr athlete, so you can just so it all works out. But you pay off this decision that, like you said, coin toss, great punt. You pay it off. And honestly, I got a little nervous at the start of this drive because it was a screen to Montgomery right out of the back of their end zone. Really nice play design by Ben Johnson. Not a lot of teams are throwing a screen out of their own end zone.
A lot of risk running a screen out of the end zone.
Absolutely. Get a 13-yarder there. They get an 11-yarder and a swing pass to Montgomery. They go to try to swing again. The Bills stuff it this time. Taron Johnson and Benford come up and stuff it. And then on a 2nd and 9, this is where the NFL and the officiating crew finally, in my opinion, did their job exactly how you're supposed to. It's an incompletion, but it was St. Brown kind of had it and made a couple steps. And then Christian Benford, 4 steps. This is like Cody Alexander, who does Match Quarters, and I talk all the time about like teach tape and certain guys. And Christian Benford's it. Like if I had a young corner that I was trying to teach how to play the game of football, and especially a defensive back, it would be Christian Benford. He did this again last week, to result in an incompletion, and this one resulted in a fumble. And they also had a face mask on this, which I think is what created some of the confusion early. So Ed Oliver, I think, was the one that got his face mask pulled because he was beating everybody every single rep. He gets a face mask, and they threw the flag for that and just kind of, I think, forgot about that there was just a fumble on the play, and Matt Milano covered the fumble, and so they just called that and moved him back. Well, NFL officiating calls in, Sean McDermott looked like he was about to challenge it, which I know he gets a lot of flack for not making the right challenges at the right times. This would have
Yeah,
been the time.
they told him not to because we're already reviewing
We're
it. He
looking
had the
at it,
challenge flag in
correct?
his hand. They told him he didn't have to because they were reviewing it.
He was, and you could see Dan Campbell on the other side pissed, like, let us get a playoff. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want anyone to look at it. But this is where that New York booth review is supposed to step in and do the right thing. And they do it, and they call it the fumble for the Bills. Christian Benford, man, plays all the way through the ball every time. That should have been a catch by almost every other opportunity for every, this is a great wide receiver making a good catch in open field. And he played all the way through the hands. You can't teach it any better, man. That is going to be replayed in this defensive film room over and over again this year. And the Bills defense holds up again to give the Buffalo Bills another opportunity to score. And complimentary football strikes again, Greg. This is a fantastic drive. You come out, you're at your own 26 at this point, starting the drive, so you don't have a long way to go. You're probably ending this in points anyway. You start with an incompletion, then you get a Cook with an 8-yarder, another 8-yarder from Cook. You get to on a 3rd and 2, and then you get Allen Keeper for 4 yards. Defensive low block, which I know is like a newer rule that doesn't get called a ton, but you
I
get
actually
one.
credit to Jim Nance for explaining the reason they have that in place is they don't. It was Romo who did the goofy explanation, but it's perfect. It was that it intentionally for little guy sees big guy coming, like, oh, I don't want to get steamrolled. I'm going to take out this guy's legs and just make a pile, which
Correct.
is exactly what happened. It didn't look like. People who aren't as nuanced in that situation don't realize how dangerous it is because it looks like, oh, like he just kind of went down and tried to clog things up. Like, yes, that's the whole point is you have these big offensive linemen running at full speed and a little guy takes out their
Not
legs and
good.
it's when offensive linemen get hurt.
Yeah.
It's not in the intent of the game. So that is exactly why they have it there. It is, I think is the reason people get confused is that calling it low block is a weird description for a
Sure.
defender kind of clogging up the run area, which is what he's trying to do.
Yeah. And traditionally,
So
we've seen people be able to do it. Like that's
correct, correct.
a tactic that people use. So
Yeah.
yeah, it looks weird, but it gets the Bills into another 1st and goal at the 3-yard line, and this is where you see the Shakir shovel, the fake toss, and the shovel pass to Shakir, which is something that we see like Andy Reid and Kansas City Chiefs do a ton. Shakir's the perfect player for this kind of thing, and it gives actually Josh Allen another touchdown pass on the day. It's a 5-play, 26-yard, minute 37 seconds for the Bills to go up 35-14. I really think these sequences here in the start of this first half is where the Bills won the game at the start of the game. And then this sequence coming out of half. And for them to make these types of adjustments and plays in these spots in the scripted stuff out of both parts of the half where everybody's making adjustments, that's a really good coaching staff on the other sideline. Like, I don't care what the injuries are, whatever excuses were. Bills also had injuries. You made stops when you need to, when the other team had an opportunity to make their adjustments or in the beginning of the game had their scripted plays of how they wanted to attack you. And it's something that the Bills coaching staff for years actually struggled with, where it would be, those scripted plays, they would start slow and then out of the half, they would take some time to adjust. They were a step ahead of Dan Campbell and staff in this whole game. And I think that's where they won this one.
Yeah, I think it's really well said. And obviously, again, it pays off because the Bills now get the ball. With that, plus the penalty, they're at the 26-yard line. They have an incompletion first, but then they get
No, I just
Cook
ran
for.
through that.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm off. I'm off
Yeah,
by
you're
one.
off on one. So it's Lions ball.
Oh, the Lions
Yeah,
answer back here. That's what it
correct.
was. The Lions answer back with their own scoring drive, 5 plays for 70 yards. That one put us up with our biggest lead of the game off of the fumble and the response touchdown. So we were up 35-14. That was the biggest lead of the entire game, 21 points. And at that point, like you said, it's not that much time left in the game to have to come back from 21. But
Yeah,
they
you're
do
almost through
answer
the
back.
third quarter when they get the ball back.
Yeah, correct. They're already in a spot here, and they have a couple big plays, and then they get the 66-yarder to Amon-Ra St. Brown. It really felt like we were in good position to kind of make them have to matriculate their way down the field, and this is really the frustrating one. And I think if anybody had some of that Bills PTSD and that nervous mafia energy, it was this one where it's like, oh, man.
This is where Romo started selling it too, of like, oh, they're there,
correct.
they're back in the game.
Yes. Romo's leaning into it, and they're breaking off a big play, and it was like, I know you get annoyed when people use like the bad angle thing, but like Cam Lewis did. Like, he got caught coming up and not realizing, oh crap, and then as he turns to run with him, you're not catching up to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, Cam Lewis isn't anyways. Maybe, maybe there's somebody on our team who could, but Cam Lewis isn't that guy.
No.
So they end up scoring. So now it's like, okay, well, we got to answer back. The Bills come back 7 plays, 38 yards. We move our way down the field, get the initial play to Hollins, and then they think we're going to be running the ball exclusively. We hit a nice play action to Dalton Kincaid for 29 yards. Okay. Then we do get a run, another incompletion here. This one, I don't know exactly what happened. We end up having to take a timeout. We were going to get
down to the close, and Josh it looked like they talked on the sideline. Like, Josh was like, I had it, and they were cool. But McDermott was like, hey, it got close. Like, let's not.
They thought it was about to be a.
Which is a smart timeout at 3rd and 6. Like, you still have a shot at 3rd and 6, at 3rd and 16, like that.
Yeah, it would have gone from 3rd and 7 to 3rd and 12. That puts you back in a tougher spot. There isn't anybody open here, and this is the one where Josh is rolling out and takes the deep shot to Keon Coleman, and Josh Pascal absolutely destroys Josh and hits him with the huge hit coming back. And it was a clean hit, like perfectly clean hit. And Josh gets just lit up, and now Tyler Bass comes in and hits the 50-yarder. I was nervous on this one. This one, obviously, seeing the miss earlier, and now you do have a little bit of the momentum going where they cut it back to 14, and you don't want to come up away with nothing. You want to keep them. Again, your comment's perfect. That stiff arm, that arm's length, keep them up there. We get the field goal. We keep it up 17, and that keeps them to where, even with what we see the rest of the game, he was still up 3 scores in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, this is exactly what you needed. Great game script wise, because this is an explosive team that can also generate some takeaways and get some stops. And so, even though Romo and those guys were trying to make it feel like this game was going to get close because of these scores, the way the Bills offense was playing, it was really, in my opinion, it was like, unless the Bills really beat themselves and throw up this whole rest of this fourth quarter, you got this. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I do think that the way the Bills started playing, I hate the term soft zone. Tony Romo used it a ton, but they really were kind of just trying to keep everything in front of them. And they have tons of skill players that can, if you give them some space and they vacate the space in the zone, like St. Brown can take it 66 yards and break up what you're trying to do, which is create an 8 to 10 play drive that takes 4 minutes and turn it into something that's a, 5-play drive, 6-play drive.
Well, back to back, they had 5-play 70-yard touchdown drives. One with a minute 50. This one was 2:02, and this one, the first one was the Amon-Ra St. Brown play with kind of catching Cam Lewis in that spot. This one was a little frustrating because you really felt the soft zone where you kept seeing them drop back
for 31,
and it was you get Montgomery for 6, Gibbs for 15, Laporta for 31. St. Brown for 6, Gibbs for touchdown for 12, and it was boom, boom, boom. Like, Jesus, can't we make them bleed a little clock? And this is the one where
this is also where Kareem Jackson comes into the game too. Yeah.
So now Cole Bishop has to go out with the cramp and get the IV in the locker room, and now you have another backup in there that was the backup of the backup. So now we're doing a cluster injury. And here, I love Dan Campbell. I have him as a top 5 coach in the league. I think he's great. He is true to himself and aggressive to the core, no matter what. And this is one where he was simply
hands us another drive of the game.
He was simply too aggressive. 12 minutes left, maybe in the traditional old school NFL where you didn't have to declare it. And you also had the previous rules where recovering the onside kick was between 14 to 17%. Now it's 3 to 5%, and you have to declare it. So if in the old school where you could have just done a surprise onside kick and given it a shot, but you know what? Take a chance. You're not stopping. The Bills are scoring every time they get the ball. You got to take a chance at it. Yeah. But the 3 to 5% conversion rate that we're seeing in the NFL is just so crazy. And then it gets reinforced extra because Mac Howens grabs the onside kick. He almost pulls a Micah Hyde. If everybody remembers, Micah Hyde had that graceful pirouette where he jumps up against the Dolphins, grabs it, and takes it back for a touchdown. Matt Collins takes it back all the way down to the 5-yard line for a 38-yard recovery.
At somebody again.
And then points and laughs at them because Matt Collins is great. And then Josh has the rollout with the play action pass out to Ray Davis, who runs in for the touchdown. And we have a 1-play, 5-yard, 9-second touchdown drive, which again is actually not ideal from a time standpoint, but just completely negated their scoring drive here. And it's like, it's like in basketball when you're trying to come back. If the other team gets a 3, it doesn't really matter how fast it was. You still negated whatever you were trying to do because they're staying that far away.
Yeah, and for me, I didn't really care because the Bills scored 45 points in a game. Like it's crazy that they're scoring at these clips. And I do think though, I think people are going to crap on Dan Campbell. One, we live in a world of recency bias where like every time we see something, it's the worst coaching decision ever every single week. It wasn't like. I think he needed to grasp at some straws. And honestly, like it's a little bit of Madden brain where you're just like, I think he would have been happy if obviously it didn't go his way where Mac gets that huge return. Yeah. That's the anomaly to a play like this. I think he would have been happy to give the Bills a short field and a less of a scoring drive. And hey, if they're going to score quick and then we can get the ball back and keep trying to match points here.
He would have liked the drive itself to be there, to have the variance to send blitzes and to try to get a turnover
or
and
get
that's
a field goal,
hold
to a field goal or something.
Or hold to a field goal. Obviously he didn't plan to give him the ball at the 5. It just made that hyper aggressive decision look even worse than what it was.
Yeah. Yep.
So the Bills score there. The Lions, to their credit, do come back again, this time in 11. And this time the Bills, if we're going to bust on the soft zone, this time it actually does help. So now instead of the 5-play minute and 50 seconds, now it takes them 11 plays. So an 11-play scoring drive, we're starting to slow them down a little bit. They do get a pass to Jamison Williams, where I feel bad for Christian Benford because Jamison Williams is crazy fast. Like Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill fast.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Not give him the cushion to get beat deep? So the 16-yard comeback is just free yards at that point. And Romo was right, saying, I would just keep doing it and just taking it down the field as long as they give it. Then they go to 14 yards to Laporta, 11 yards to Laporta. Then they get a little bit of pressure, push him out. He has to scramble for 3 yards. Now we get an incompletion. Then it's 10 yards to Laporta. We get a holding penalty because Ed Oliver is whipping Frank Ragnow's butt. Frank Ragnow is awesome. Frank Ragnow is a stud, and Ed Oliver embarrassed him a couple times in this game. Multiple holding calls.
Ran right over him a few times.
Just completely pancaked him, knocked him back on his butt. Yeah. Jameer Gibbs for 11 yards, then incompletion. Then we get the 10-yarder, Tom Monroe St. Brown, another 4-yarder. But each of these times they're tackling them, letting the clock run. We're playing
keeping
the
them
clock
in the middle of the field.
Yeah, in the middle of the field. They do go in and score on the next play. If we could have got one more stop, it really could have kept clicking, but we made them take another 4 minutes off the clock, 3 minutes and 49 seconds, almost a full 4 minutes. And now we get the ball back with 8:02, and this is one of the most important field goal drives of the season because we take 10 plays, 47 yards, and most importantly, 5 minutes and 59 seconds off the clock. Josh is in command the entire time, so we get a run. Then we get the play action deep pass where Dawson Knox has the awesome one-handed catch. Yeah. Again, a gutsy call from Joe Brady because he knows they're selling out of the run because they think we're fully just milking it. Then again, the next play where Josh knows that they are selling out on the give of the read option. So instead he pulls it and runs for 21 yards untouched and slides.
And slides because he's not an idiot.
Because he's not dumb and is smart and slides. Then we get the quick pass to Shakir where he goes for 6 yards. They do get a stuff here for -1, then knock it back to 5 yards. And then again, this is the one where they were called the quarterback power sweep, and Spencer Brown's looking for someone to block, and he ends up getting hurt on the play because he doesn't have kind of dives forward with Josh because there's nobody to hit. Then I will say Josh thought he was going to get him again. He pulls on the read option here where he probably should have gave, but one bad decision out of an entire amazing game that he had the whole time here. Then this one, it would have been the nail in the coffin. Josh checks to it. They go to a like not a leak, but an across the field, like a sneak across tight end screen. The two receivers are set up to block for him downfield, and Dawson Knox is open for what's going to be a touchdown, like or maybe he's down to the 2 or 3 yard line. But he sneaks across. It ends up getting knocked down by Ben Neiman. Good play by him. Credit to him to be able to knock that down, because it not only then doesn't score, but it stops the clock, so they don't have to take a timeout. So now on 3rd and goal, this is the one where everybody saw it. Josh scrambles. He comes up and ends up being barely there, and he kind of sees him at the last minute and like pushes the ball with like a basketball 2-hand chest pass to Dalton Kincaid for what would have been the highlight reel touchdown of the day. And they call it back on David Edwards making a absolutely every single play has what he does with a chest plate block, a regular chest plate block, not out of the frame, not outside the shoulders, a regular chest plate block. And they have the audacity to call it a hold and take a touchdown off the board. So that knocks it back. Now you're at, 3rd and goal from the 20. Alec Anderson false starts. It goes back to the 25. There's nothing to do here besides force them to take a timeout with a run
which
play.
They don't.
We run it, and here again, not only the onside kick, but
questionable to not take the timeout here, right? Like,
not any questionable, it's incorrect. Like, this is not a question. This is not a debatable one. The timeout, the 40 seconds is worth just as much on this side of the 2-minute warning as on the other. With 2 minutes and 50 seconds left, you have to take the timeout. You have to take a timeout there. They let the Bills run the ball down, and we kick the field goal at 2 minutes and 3 seconds. He lets us take 47 seconds off the play between the run play and the field goal, and that was a huge waste in the situation they were in. And then they end up having to go down, and again, if we're gonna give the soft zone a hard time, it takes the Lions 16 plays to score. So the Bills are up 2 scores with the field goal. Again, we're back up 48-35. We're up 13 points. They need a miracle here because we just forced them to take it, or they didn't take a timeout at that spot. But it already tried one, earlier in the game. So now they're there. It takes them 16 plays to work their way down the field, multiple 4th down
all in the middle of the field too, not
all in the middle of the field.
One where they got out of bounds.
Yeah, they end up having to pull out like a hook and ladder and some other crazy stuff, work their way down. They end up scoring with 12 seconds left, and it takes them 2 minutes or a minute and 51 to score, and then they have to try an onside kick, which the Bills recover. Even if they do recover, they still needed a touchdown with no timeouts left in 12 seconds. Yeah. So it was still going to be in very good position there for the team. But the Bills do recover because, like you said, Taron Johnson's a dog. Gets the recovery. The Bills win 48-42. And as we had mentioned earlier, the Bills have now defeated last year's Super Bowl champ, last year's Super Bowl runner-up, last year's NFC runner-up, this year's AFC number 1 seed, this year's NFC number 1 seed. The Bills can beat absolutely anyone. They still have to play their A game. We've given up a lot of points the last 2 weeks. We need some of these defenders back healthy. We need to make some changes in what we're going to do in the playoffs. But this offense can absolutely win a championship, and we are seeing Josh Allen play at a historic level.
Yeah, it's I don't think as a team they've played their best football. I think offensively, I don't know how we can get much better than we're seeing. I'd love to see it if they've got more. But yeah, this is exactly where you want to be in this time of year. You came off a tough loss where everybody was questioning you. I don't think anybody expected multiple stops from the defense. I know I didn't. I didn't expect the points in yards to be like, what did you say, over 1,000 yards of total offense, 90 points. Yeah, like
58 first downs.
Yeah, this is Madden. We just watched Madden play out in real life here. And I nobody expected that, but I didn't expect the Bills defense to get 4 stops. And they still scored 40 points, getting 4 stops on this team. So that in itself tells you how potent this Lions offense can be. And I think that they've shown that they can do it against lots of good teams. They scored 38 on the Packers a couple of weeks ago. That's a good defense from the Packers. So this is a team that can score a lot. And I think the Bills did everything right in terms of game plan. And yeah, they gave up some points late in the game, But to your point, man, they had a 17-point lead the majority of that second half. So like it feels a lot worse if you're just looking at the box score, and the game looks a lot closer because of the way that it ended. But the Bills maintained that stiff arm that we've been talking about all throughout the night. They maintained that throughout the day.
Yeah, it's really, really, really special to be able to see. And later on tonight, I'm going to be doing the Greg Tompsett football show. We'll talk about some of the other matchups, some of the other games. Obviously,
You're
the
going
Steelers
like right now,
losing.
dude. We just went for like
The
2 hours.
Yeah, seriously, I probably need to book a little bit more break for myself here. But we'll talk about some of the other matchups, some of the other pieces. I'm going to go after Sunday Night Football, give myself a little bit of time to watch the
There you go.
post-game pressers and things. But the AFC playoff picture is now pretty well solidified. The Broncos beating the Colts, the Chargers getting a much needed win, the Dolphins losing. All of those are now there's a full 2-game lead on the top 7 teams. The Steelers losing drops them back a little bit. The Texans have now locked up their division. There's a lot of things pretty solidified, and there's only a couple questions in place. So I'm going to go through some of those scenarios and play around with some of the last outcomes here. And we'll have to get an update. It's been reported that Patrick Mahomes has a high ankle sprain. So
I've heard that before.
obviously that's not going to make any difference in the playoffs, but it is curious to see how they handle that in these last 3 games, because the last 3 games, the Chiefs do play the Texans, the Steelers, and the Broncos, 3 teams that care about all 3 of those games and their seeding. And those are not games that I assume with Carson Wentz that the Chiefs can win. So I don't know that they can just automatically rest Mahomes, but maybe they need to. If it's a high ankle sprain, that's going to be super interesting to see how that's handled and what they do, because they now not only have Patrick Mahomes with that injury, but because of the Christmas Day game, they have 3 games in 11 days. So they play Saturday and the following Wednesday. So 2 games real quick here, 2 more games in the next 11 days to be able to play there. So it's going to be super interesting to see how they handle that and what they do against, again, it's the Texans and the Steelers. The next 2 games, those are not gimmies. And with the Bills now close, if they were to not have Mahomes or to drop those 2 games, the Bills could take back the number 1 seed. So today really kept some of those things in play. If the Bills had lost to the Lions today, it would have allowed the Chiefs to just rest Mahomes with no risk. And now there is a little bit of risk in place. So
and speaking of stiff arms,
those scenarios later on tonight.
Yeah, speaking of stiff arms and stuff, it's nice to see the Steelers take a loss there and keep them a little bit of an arm's length. Like, I'm not worried about the Steelers, but that is the team that's going to take that 2 seed from you if you slipped up anywhere along this last final stretch of games. But crazy thing in the NFC, man, how crazy is it that the Lions are 12-2 and could be stuck tied with a Vikings win tomorrow? Like, that division's not they at 12-2, they're not even guaranteed to win their division. That's wild to me, man. How frustrated and panicked would we be as Bills fans sitting right at 11-3 right now?
Yeah, a 3-way tie. Their final games are the Bears, which of course I think they'll win, at 49ers, which if they're getting healthy could be tough. And then that final game is Lions Vikings to end the season. That could be not only the NFC North Division Championship game, it could be the number 1 seed bye week game, where you're playing for that in week 18. How much does the NFL want that as that final Sunday Night Football to end the season? That could be huge.
I want it. That's what I want. Cool, man.
Right, anything else for the people?
Nah, dude, we'll be here. Same thing we do every week. We'll be here for your preview show. Tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait, like I said, for Eric Turner's film room feature, for Eric and Ann to break down this film. They're going to be just gushing over what Brady did. I already know they're going to dig into the offensive side. From me, you can expect the same thing. You get a lot of memes, a lot of fun on a Victory Monday, and going right into the defensive film, trying to break it down. But other than that, man, I'm going to try to tune into your show here tonight while I go hide the elf on the shelf. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with my elf tonight.
I got to move my guy around too.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we appreciate it. Big, huge thank you to fantastic producer Chris Kepner getting all those comments up there. Awesome in the chat today, guys. You guys are fantastic. So many generous contributions to us. We appreciate you guys very, very much. But on behalf of our awesome sponsors at West Herr, producer Chris Kepner, my co-host Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You have been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are